Hey guys, Tori here from Overlook Horizon. I don't know what just happened there. Apparently I played my end credits there. But we're starting, we're not ending. Technical difficulties a little bit here this morning. But usually it should come up with this screen next, and then it comes to me. And that's generally how this broadcast works. But as a one-man solo operation here, doing all the production work, I was listening to this in my ear as the monitor's going on, and I'm like, wait a minute. That doesn't sound right. That's not the right music. What's going on here? So anyways, we're here live again today, 2 days later. We just had a launch 2 days ago from Vandenberg Air Force Base out on the West Coast that launched 64 satellites, microsats and CubeSats into polar orbit with the third thrice flown booster, the third time a booster has flown, right? That makes sense. So that was just 2 days ago. It was going to be a 24-hour turnaround, but yesterday the launch got scrubbed or delayed, pushed off by a day till today, and that was because we had some contamination in the mouse food. Right? What mouse food? Well, a lot of people got a little bit confused on that. Some people thought mice got into the food for the space station, and that's what delayed it. But it was actually food for mice that will be on the space station, and that food got contaminated with mold, and they had to replace that and hurry up and get that swapped out. So that was the reason for the 24-hour delay here. And so now we're hopefully on track for launching today. It's on track for about 1:16 p.m. These are generally pretty instantaneous launch windows because it's basically timing itself so that it can catch up to the International Space Station, because this is a commercial resupply mission carrying supplies and experiments and all kinds of stuff up to the International Space Station today. So as the International Space Station flies overhead, this launch is going to time it so that it can hopefully catch up to it. And I shouldn't really say hopefully. That should be a sure thing at this point, but we don't want to jinx anything, right? But it'll catch up to the space station, dock with it, and deliver some supplies and such. And then it usually spends about a month there and then returns back afterwards, the actual Dragon capsule itself. So this flight today will look a little bit different than some of the last flights because there's no fairing on top of the Falcon 9 rocket today. It will be an actual Dragon capsule with all the commercial supplies, not to be confused with the actual, this is the cargo Dragon capsule, not to be confused with the Dragon 2 or the Crew Dragon, which is the new Dragon capsule that will ferry astronauts from U.S. soil in, I don't remember what is it, like 7 years? First time in 7 years it will ferry astronauts from U.S. soil to the International Space Station. And that's coming up later in 2019. So super exciting for that. Right now there's a tentative date of January 7th for the first test flight of that human-rated Dragon capsule. But Jim Bridenstine, the NASA administrator, said that that's pretty unlikely that it's going to happen on January 7th. And really they put out that January 7th date so that international media could get their credential or start applying for their credentials, because it's a lot harder for international media to get credentials to come to the U.S. and go watch one of these flights. So they wanted to get that opened up sooner rather than later so they could make sure that international media could get here. But it sounds like January 7th is going to be really unlikely. It's probably going to be a little bit later than that for the first demo flight. And that demo flight is really just, it's going to be uncrewed. It's going to be a test flight, checking everything out. It should dock with the space station. So go through all the motions like it would with a crew on board, just without having a crew on board. So anyways, that's what their plan is for Crew Dragon stuff. And let's see what you guys are saying. We had so much happening 2 days ago with it was the 19th launch for SpaceX in the year, which broke a record. That was the most number of launches. And now today is the 20th launch. So this will be again breaking the record, most number of launches by SpaceX in a single year. Last year they did 18. Today will be number 20. And we had so much going on 2 days ago that I didn't really get to see your comments that closely, but I see a whole bunch of our regulars here in the YouTube stream, so hello to everybody. This Matt Gixer says the mice food held up a multi-million-dollar launch. I know, right? It's kind of a little bit laughable, but the mice are important. They got to get their food, and otherwise you can't do the experiments, right? So, and what else? I saw a couple other come by. I see Jill on Facebook. Hello, and Jill and Jerry on Facebook. Hello to you guys. I see my Periscope commenters are also up. Mice don't mind moldy food, says Kyle Ed. I can't read that. Kyle Ed Morgan. Is that what that says? Mice don't like moldy food on the Periscope channel. So yeah, that's what the delay was here today, but hopefully we're on track. Launch director gave go for propellant loading just about 10 minutes ago, a little less than 10 minutes, or was it? No, it was about 10 minutes ago that he gave the go for propellant loading, which is usually a good sign. Once they start loading propellant, they're going to give it the old college try for today. A lot of times if there's something that's a little bit iffy, they'll scrub the launch or delay it before they start propellant loading so that they don't have to waste propellant or liquid oxygen being off gas, or what am I trying to say? Condensing and vaporizing, so that they lose that. So we're in good shape for today. Let's take a look at what's happening here for today. Where's my slate there that has some information here? So as we already mentioned, today is CRS-16. That's commercial resupply mission number 16 for SpaceX, basically bringing supplies up to the International Space Station. We should have, a lot on pretty much all the CRS missions for SpaceX. This is launching out of Cape Canaveral, Florida on the East Coast. It will launch, and it's going to do a return to launch site landing, which are my favorites personally, just because you usually get great video of the landing because you don't have to worry about shaky, the drone ship shaky connection and video and all that kind of stuff. So usually you get a great picture of the booster coming back to land. So we should see that really well today because this is a return to launch site landing today. This is also a brand new booster for today. So this has not been flown before, unlike 2 days ago where it was the third time that booster had flown. It had flown twice and it now then flew a third time. Today is a brand new booster. So it should look very nice and shiny and white and super pristine, and not so much when it lands. It'll be all scorched and look all sooty like the others when it comes back to land. But at least it'll start out looking nice and pristine. But anyway, so that's the mission for today. And then timeline-wise, what we're looking at, we're already into propellant loading here. So we're about T-minus 21 minutes until launch. The SpaceX broadcast, which is right above me here, that'll go live probably in about a minute. They'll put up the intro card where it just says SpaceX. And then about 5 minutes later, so 6 minutes from now, they will actually go live with their commentary, and we'll listen along and comment on whatever they have to say. And then it should be relatively short here for today because we don't have to wait for a satellite deployment today. So we'll count all the way down to 0, and then right after launch, just about a minute, just under a minute after launch, we'll hit max Q. We'll have the first MECO where the booster separates. Going to do the boost back burn, which turns it around and heads it back towards the launch site. It'll do an entry burn, a landing burn, and then land at about just over 8 minutes into launch will be the landing. Then a few seconds later, you'll have SECO, which is the second stage engine cutoff, and then the Dragon will separate from the second stage, and the solar arrays will deploy at about 11 minutes, and that'll be it. It'll be a quick fly through, and then hopefully if everything goes well today and we do get a successful launch, then we'll do some giveaways on the YouTube channel, just like we always do. I like doing these giveaways. I still have to decide what I'm giving away. I got all my goodies here next to me, and we got to decide what we're going to give away here today. But maybe I'll let you lobby me in the comments on what you're feeling for some giveaways here today. But I'll have to wrap up relatively quickly afterwards. We got a lot of work happening here back home away from the broadcast, so got to get back to it after this broadcast is over. So let's see. I see some chat about the fairing catch from 2 days ago. That's a good question. Elon said on Twitter, and what they're talking about here for the fairing catch, for those that may not know, is we're talking about the Mr. Steven boat, which it looks. Every time I want to find this Mr. Steven boat, I can never find my graphic that actually shows the Mr. Steven boat. I have so many graphics here now. That's the problem with building them all up, is that I can never find the one that I want. There it is. Oh, this is the old one. It's not even the updated one. So this is the old Mr. Steven boat. It's the same boat now, but they've upgraded the net to be much bigger, but this is before the upgraded nets. But Mr. Steven basically catches the payload fairing that protects all the satellites, and this is a brand new concept. Nobody else has really done this, and it's going to be pretty awesome when they actually do catch it, but they have yet to actually catch the payload fairing. This only happens on West Coast launches, so this is not happening today. They will not attempt a payload fairing catch today for two reasons. One, it's on the West Coast, and two, there's no payload fairing today. It's the Dragon capsule. So this is not happening today, but 2 days ago for their launch, they did attempt to catch it. They missed it, and it landed in the water, which I have an old picture. This is not from 2 days ago, but they land in the water and it looks something like this. But somebody brought up an interesting concept, which was they thought that salt water was not good for the payload fairing. And I have to be honest, I thought the same thing. For some reason, and I'd have to go back and figure out where I got this concept, but it seemed to me that it was common knowledge that the payload fairing was, the whole reason they were trying to catch it was because if it landed in the salt water, that it wasn't good for reusability, and that's why they were trying to catch it instead of land it in the water and recover it. And Elon said on Twitter 2 days ago after the launch that it landed in the water, they picked it up, they recovered it, but they were going to reuse it. And that really confused me. I don't quite understand, because if that's the case, if it can just land in the water and they can pick it up and reuse it, I don't understand what Mr. Steven is for then, other than recovery. I mean, I don't know what you need the big net for. And you can have a support ship out there to go pick it up and recover it. But perhaps it will extend the reusability, because I can't imagine that salt water is going to be great for not only the payload fairing itself, but any electronics that are on board. I don't know. I mean, presumably they're well protected, but the parachute itself, you probably can't reuse that. I don't know. It's just confused me very much when he said that it landed in water, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, and we'll reuse it. No problem. It got wet." That seemed like a big problem in the past, that if it got wet, they couldn't use it. Presumably because if it got in the salt water. I mean, that's what the issue was. But I don't know. I'm very confused by that. So if anybody has any insight as to why that has changed, or maybe I was just completely wrong in the first place, but I don't know what changed. It seems like something changed. It seemed like a lot of people were very confused by the fact that it landed in the salt water, but he was still like, yeah, everything's fine. That was confusing. So I've always wondered if SpaceX pays, seeing as it's their booster. I'm not sure what that means, Sean. I'm not sure what you're paying for, or maybe he might be commenting about somebody else, or just reading comments out of context. That's okay. So let's see. I'm going back through some of the comments. Oh, I see some people lobbying for gifts. Gregorius likes the pin. Oh, that's what Sean's talking about. Who pays for a loss if there's a booster failure? So generally, if there's a booster failure, they all have insurance, and there's a specific name, like it's like spaceflight insurance, but that's not what it's called. There's some specific name for it. But they have insurance that generally the payload provider gets, or the customer gets. And so that's usually who's going to pay, but it's a huge black mark against the provider to have a booster fail, because that's going to put a huge halt into the whole process. They've got to, and not just for the provider that fails, but let's say SpaceX's booster fails. Not only is SpaceX going to review all their stuff, but ULA is going to review everything. Northrop Grumman and or whoever, what's the new name of the company there that does the Antares rockets? Can't remember. But basically everybody's going to be doing reviews on all their stuff, and the whole spaceflight industry in general kind of comes to a screeching halt, at least just for a long time. For whoever the provider was that it failed, their progress is halted for a really long time, but everybody else gets slowed down at least a little bit. When something like that happens, everybody gets a little bit twitchy, with good reason. So All right, so the broadcast here is starting. We just kind of rambled on for a little bit here, but let's get the broadcast up full screen so that we can see what's happening. Then we'll chat more afterwards, and we'll do some giveaways, but I'm excited to see this thing land back at the launch site. I'm looking for some great footage of that. That would be fantastic here. So, all right, let's switch it over, and we'll check it out here. I'm just kind of hovering over in this corner.
It's just after 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, December 5th, and you're looking at a live shot of Space Launch Complex 40, where the Spacex Falcon 9 rocket is about to launch our Dragon spacecraft to the International Space Station. Liftoff is targeted for 1:16 p.m. Eastern Time, or 18 hours, 16 minutes, 16 seconds Universal Time. I'm John Isbrecher, and I'm the Falcon Principal Integration Engineer at SpaceX, and I'm thrilled to be here with you to cover our 16th cargo resupply mission for NASA. Now we're just inside T-minus 14 minutes and counting, and all systems are currently go at our launch site at Cape Canaveral and here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California.
Here at SpaceX headquarters, my name is Tom Perderio, and I'm a firmware engineer here at SpaceX. And joining us today is NASA Public Affairs Officer Stephanie Martin. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's great to be here in Hawthorne and to be a part of the webcast for the 16th SpaceX Cargo Resupply Services mission to the International Space Station. Our partnerships with SpaceX and other American companies are vital as NASA prepares to send astronauts on deep space exploration missions. Today, we have a lot, literally tons, of exciting science loaded into the Dragon at the launch pad. SpaceX will deliver almost 6,000 pounds of cargo to the space station, including materials to support dozens of the science and research investigations, but we'll be going into that a little bit later in today's webcast. As I was telling Tom earlier, the International Space Station has been orbiting the Earth for about 20 years now. And of those 18 years, we've had astronauts conducting research on the International Space Station. That means today's high school students have never lived a single day in their life where we haven't had astronauts conducting groundbreaking research in space.
It's kind of crazy to think about. Back when I was in high school, they had barely finished the very first crew expedition, and the trust wasn't even built. So to think we had human presence in space for that long is awesome. This will actually be SpaceX's 20th launch of 2018, and we'll be launching a flight-proven Dragon spacecraft today, which visited the International Space Station once before in CRS-10 mission back of March of 2017. Both Falcon 9 and Dragon were designed with reflight in mind, so the vehicle hardware is built to support multiple missions with minimal refurbishment in between. And while this Dragon has flown once before, the booster we're flying today is actually brand new. And after stage separation today, we'll be bringing that first stage back to land at Landing Zone 1 in Cape Canaveral so that we can fly it again for future missions. Today's launch window is instantaneous, which means that we only have 1 second to launch this Dragon. That means that if we scrub today's launch or have to abort for any reason, we'll have to move to our backup launch date, which is December 7th at 12:28 p.m. Eastern Time.
It's T-minus 11 minutes and 30 seconds and counting. And as I like to say on the webcast, the good news is the SpaceX team is working no significant issues. Falcon 9 conducted the go-no-go poll at T-minus 38 minutes, and propellant loading began shortly thereafter at T-minus 35 minutes. The SpaceX team has already completed loading fuel onto the second stage, and we're nearing completion of first stage fuel load. That'll wrap up at about T-minus 6 minutes. Big loading going on right now is liquid oxygen. That's underway on both the first and second stages. We're about 75% full on first stage and only about 15% full on second stage. We just started loading a few minutes ago. We'll finish loading liquid oxygen between T-minus 3 and T-minus 2 minutes. We're also loading helium gas onto storage vessels located on both the first and second stage. We'll use this helium to pressurize the tanks to replace the propellant that's pulled out of the tanks by the Merlin engine turbopumps. On top of Falcon 9, as you can see on the monitor, is the Dragon spacecraft. Dragon team is getting ready. They began their auto sequence at T-minus 35 minutes. That's when we synchronized timing between Dragon and the Falcon 9. And now they're undergoing last checks to make sure the systems are all healthy. The next big step for Dragon is transfer to internal power at T-minus 8 minutes. We come off of ground power and we use the batteries on board Dragon. The range is ready to support. The Air Force tells us the airspace and the sea surface is clear for launch. And finally on the weather, as you can see from the camera views, blue skies, upper altitude winds look good. We've been using balloons to check out those winds. The only thing we're watching right now is ground level winds. We're up around 20 miles an hour, but we've still got some margin before we hit a ground limit. So crossing our fingers that the winds continue to be good for the last 10 minutes. Finally, on a historical note, this week will mark the 8th anniversary since we flew the first Dragon for NASA, our COT-C1 mission back in December 2010, which was a precursor to today's resupply missions. All told, it's been an amazing journey for SpaceX, and so at T-minus 9 minutes 20 seconds and counting, all systems are go.
Our Dragon spacecraft has been flying for 6 years now, and today it's the only vehicle flying that can deliver significant cargo both to and from the International Space Station. And it's been an exciting journey to get to where we are today. In 2010, SpaceX became the first private company to send a spacecraft to orbit and then return it to the Earth. And then 2 years later, in 2012, Dragon became the first privately developed spacecraft to visit the space station. Since then, SpaceX has made a total of 16 trips to the station. 15 of those as official resupply missions, and we are under contract with NASA for a total of 26 cargo resupply missions. We're currently just flying cargo missions, but very soon we'll be flying humans to space as part of NASA's Commercial Crew Program, with our first uncrewed demonstration mission, Demo 1, targeted for January of next year.
Today, Dragon will be carrying dozens of research payloads to the space station, including research in the National Laboratory operated by the Center for the Advancement of Science in Space, otherwise known as CASIS. There are more than 20 payloads included on this mission, sponsored by the National Lab. In fact, this mission represents the largest number of payloads ever delivered to the National Lab during a single launch to the space station. The National Lab payloads represent a diverse group of research investigations, all of which are intended to benefit life here on Earth. Let's take a look at some of that groundbreaking research from CASIS that will be aboard this CRS-16 mission.
SpaceX's 16th resupply mission to the International Space Station is primed and packed with an incredible amount of research that has the capacity to benefit life on Earth. More than 20 payloads are sponsored by the U.S. National Laboratory on the International Space Station. Let's get an idea about some of those payloads that are associated with this mission.
But we're going to risk it.
Budweiser will send its third experiment to station with implementation partner Space Tango. This payload will examine the steeping, germination, and kilning processes associated with malting barley. Results from this research could help the company develop new malt barley varieties that are more tolerant to extreme stress environments.
I had no idea Budweiser was involved.
Corrosion can lead to inefficiencies in products and cause costly damage. In an experiment to study corrosion-causing microbial biofilms on Earth and on station, Nalco Champion will monitor the rate of microbial corrosion as a function of cell density and activity. Results could shed light on new methods to effectively mitigate against microbial corrosion both on Earth and on station. Startup company Lam Division seeks to enhance the manufacturing process of a retinal implant designed to restore vision to those who are blinded by retinal degenerative diseases. The implant consists of multiple layers of a light-activated protein, and production in microgravity could improve overall uniformity and the stability of the multi-layer system. Earlier this year, the ISS National Lab partnered with Marvel Entertainment for the Guardians of the Galaxy Space Station Challenge. Hundreds of students submitted flight concepts based on the physical characteristics of Rocket and Groot from the Guardians of the Galaxy. And 2 projects were selected that will launch on this mission. One student experiment is looking at aeroponic farming, and the other at a dental glue that is activated by UV light. Sepsis, or systemic inflammation, is usually caused by exposure of an open wound to contaminated sources and is a costly healthcare burden. Tympanogen seeks to leverage microgravity to improve the process of antibiotic release from a novel patch they have developed to treat wounds and reduce the occurrence and severity of sepsis. This launch represents a diverse mixture of science that has the capacity to benefit life on Earth while leveraging microgravity. To learn more about all of the payloads associated with this mission, please visit issnationallab.org and go Dragon.
See, now there's some pretty awesome stuff involved in the space station that you wouldn't think of.
This is just a small sample of the dozens of research experiments that Dragon will take up to the International Space Station. You can follow along using @space_station on Twitter for more information on the exciting microgravity research happening there.
We are coming up on T-minus 5 minutes and continuing to count down for launch in our 1 second window. On these last few minutes, Falcon 9 is performing final checkouts to make sure all the primary systems will work in flight. We're covering propulsion, communications, avionics systems. Now currently at T-minus 7 minutes, we began the engine chill-in. Valves that previously were closed were opened. That allowed fuel and liquid oxygen to flow out of the propellant tanks down to the turbo pumps. That cold liquid oxygen chilled in the turbo pump on each of the 9 Merlin first stage engines. We might hear an announcement in the countdown a little later on that the engines are sufficiently chilled in for launch. Currently, the transporter Rector Strongback is getting ready to move away from the first stage and second stage. It'll move back a couple of degrees and then hold there until launch. We're also in the middle right now of checking out the upper stage thrust vector control actuators. This is known as engine wiggle. We're physically moving the thrust chamber very slightly. That makes sure the guidance hardware is go for flight. The first stage engines will have a similar wiggle, but that's done just seconds before we ignite them. Now at T-minus 1 minute, the flight computers will enter startup mode on the Falcon 9. That will guide the rocket through the rest of the countdown. You'll hear the launch director from SpaceX give a go for launch at T-minus 45 seconds. And then finally, a couple seconds before liftoff, the engines will be ignited. And at T0, the rocket will be released from the hold-down clamps. And at that point, the Strongback will then recline the remainder of the way from the rocket, clearing it for liftoff and flight into orbit. On the Dragon side, the team has transferred to internal power. They've performed their final checks. Just watching right now, making sure everything is go for launch and the flight that will take us about 3 days to rendezvous with the space station. The Air Force range continues to be go, and the weather continues to look good.
Beautiful
so
shot
right now,
there.
everything looks good for an on-time launch, just under T-minus 3 minutes and counting. Let's share in the last minutes of terminal countdown.
Yeah, so everything is in good shape. So again, this is a brand new booster, but the capsule itself, the Dragon capsule, has flown once before on CRS-10, and actually, you're probably not going to be able to see it, but Elon tweeted a picture right by the SpaceX logo. There's a little picture of the space station, which denotes that it has traveled to the space station. It's like a space station wings there. Yeah, this capsule has flown before, but not the booster itself. Brand new booster here today. Should get a return to launch site landing. Beautiful pictures. Looks like a crystal clear day at Cape Canaveral, Florida. That's where this is launching from. This is Slick 40, Pad 40 on Cape Canaveral. Not the big, huge Pad 39A like the space shuttle launched from, but the next one, or actually 2 pads further south from that. So a little smaller, but I've personally been to this pad. This one is still pretty impressive. To be able to walk up to that and see a rocket there.
Stage 2 LUXO complete.
Right about a minute and a half, about 10 seconds from now, we should see a big, huge vent. That'll be the final liquid oxygen vent right before launch here. Everything's good. Range is green. Weather's green. So everything is
closeout starting.
Looking good. This should be ground gas closeout. This should be our big vent. There you go. All the moldy mouse food has been replaced, and it's good to fly now. No more moldy mouse food, which caused yesterday's delay. And there's no launch window tomorrow.
Ground gas closeout's complete.
So it will be 2 days from now if it's crossed.
Falcon 9's in startup. Stage 2 present for flight.
Go for launch.
Here we go. Looking good. Still hear a lot of chatter in the background. I don't know if they got the pad mics up.
Stage 1's at startup pressures.
Minus 15 seconds.
And Falcon 9's configured for flight.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff.
Let it go. Yeah.
35 seconds into flight, we've had a great liftoff from Space Launch Complex 40. Falcon 9 powered under the thrust of 1.7 million pounds. We're coming up on throttle bucket, preparing for maximum dynamic pressure.
Throttle bucket? Is that what he said? Throttle back. This is max Q.
Propulsion reports that we are on target, throttle down, getting ready to pass through max Q.
Vehicle is supersonic and experiencing maximum dynamic pressure.
There's max Q right now.
We're passing through the range where aerodynamic loads are greatest on Dragon Falcon 9. The Merlin engines are now throttling back up. Propulsion reports the first stage systems are nominal. Great views from the cameras here. The blue skies, a nice daylight launch, showing Falcon 9 with Dragon headed downrange. The call out for MVAC engine chill. That means we are now chilling in the LOX turbo pump on the upper stage engine, getting ready for its ignition about 2.5 minutes into flight.
Yeah, it should be about 2:20.
Great view looking back from the first stage camera. Cape Canaveral in the background as we head northeast towards the International Space Station orbit. Next major activities coming up in about 25 seconds. We'll have shutdown of the 9 first stage engines. We'll get stage separation and ignition of the second stage to propel Falcon 9 and Dragon into Earth orbit. We also hope to see on the left side the first stage flip around and light 3 engines to begin the path of coming back to landing zone 1 at Cape Canaveral.
Should have Nico right here. The camera on the left is looking up at the second stage there.
Nico.
There's Nico.
Stage 1 boost back startup pressure.
Successful stage separation, ignition of the upper stage engine. We've also seen the first stage has done its flip maneuver and the boost back burn has begun. We have lit 3 engines on the first stage. That's reducing the forward velocity and will be bringing it back towards Cape Canaveral. Shutdown of the boost back burn is coming up in about 10 seconds.
So generally that boost back burn, it will still climb and gain altitude as it does that
Second
boost back
stage
burn.
continues to look good on power. On the right-hand side, you may have seen an object passing the nozzle of the upper stage engine. That's the Dragon nose cap that's generated at this point in flight. We've heard the call-out shutdown on the boost back burn. First stage has completed the first of 3 planned burns that will result in return to landing zone 1 on Cape Canaveral, just a few miles from where the first stage just lifted off. You can see the grid fins slowly opening. The large titanium fins, we allow them to open slowly. Given the mass of the fins, we don't want them to open too rapidly. Second stage continues to look good. First stage good. T plus 4 minutes into flight. All systems are go.
As you just heard from John, we had a beautiful, clear liftoff of the Falcon 9 from Cape Canaveral. And right now, there's 2 things happening simultaneously. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see a camera that's on the top of that Falcon 9 first stage, currently pointed down the length of the first stage. You can see the titanium grid fins, and that will be executing its re-entry burn at about T plus 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And then on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the engine nozzle of that Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage. That is currently accelerating the Dragon spacecraft to match orbit with the International Space Station for its eventual berthing maneuvers.
It's an interesting semantic point that the process of connecting the Dragon to the space station is called berthing with an E. And that's because it is brought to the space station by the Canadarm2. while docking actually refers specifically to two spacecraft that can connect without any external assistance. This stems from old shipping days in which ships would come into the harbor and dock themselves under their own power, while larger ships, which aren't able to easily navigate in harbors, are met by tugboats and then berthed. So, for the space station, the robotic Canadarm2 is like a tugboat for the Dragon spacecraft.
That Dragon spacecraft will make its way to orbit after it separates from the top of the second stage, coming up later in the mission. But right now, we are focused on both that second stage still accelerating and the first stage coming back down for a landing.
The Crew
Next
Dragon
step up for the first stage is going to be a Reentry Burn. That's when it's going to light 3 of its Merlin engines to slow itself down as it hits the denser regions of the atmosphere. You can actually see on the left-hand side of your screen, that is Cape Canaveral and the coastline of Florida. You can see that first stage is oriented towards Cape Canaveral and currently about to decelerate.
So if you're listening to what they were saying, they're talking about
That Reentry Burn will be happening in 30 seconds.
The Crew Dragon.
In addition to those Reentry Burns, you actually saw some what looked like frozen condensation floating off the side of the first stage. In addition to those burns, the first stage also uses those titanium grid fins to control itself and cold gas thrusters, which are those bursts of air you can see periodically issuing from that first stage. Let's watch the Reentry Burn happen in about 5 seconds.
The Crew Dragon, so what I was going to say is the Crew Dragon is expected to dock, not be berthed to the space station.
Stage 1.
Here comes the landing, though.
You can see all three of the 9 of those Merlin engines light up right now, executing that Reentry Burn and slowing that first stage down.
There's cut off. So there'll be one more burn. That'll be the actual
landing burn. And we just heard the call out for an entry burn shutdown. Landing burn will begin. That's the next phase of landing at T plus 7 minutes and 35 seconds. We currently have an unbelievable view of Cape Canaveral from the bird's eye view.
It's pretty crystal clear there.
It is absolutely amazing. I've
been
at Cape Canaveral for these landings before where you can feel those sonic booms in your chest. It is just so exciting along the Space Coast.
Oh boy. Whoa, what's happening? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What is this? This doesn't look good.
Stage 1 transonic.
What is that? Hey, go back to that. What was happening? I shouldn't be smiling.
Stage 1 landing burn started.
There's landing burn.
Stage 2 continues along the nominal trajectory.
Right now, Stage 2 is currently on a nominal trajectory.
Did it land?
This is the primary mission to get that Dragon spacecraft into orbit.
I don't have a good feeling about this.
Right now, you can see that second stage engine is performing nominally with the Merlin vacuum engine glowing red hot.
And come on, show us something. I hear clapping. What is happening? Show us what's happening.
Landing operators need to returning out to a site rep and we can continue to super window.
You may have heard the SpaceX team cheering in the background. It appears that the Stage 1 of the Falcon 9 has made a water landing off the coast of Cape Canaveral. Still waiting on exact word for what happened there. Just a quick reminder, the primary mission today is to bring the Dragon to the International Space Station. Right now, that mission is going spectacularly. All telemetry from Stage 2 looks nominal, and it looks like we are approaching a good orbit. Waiting for confirmation on that soon.
Why didn't they show us
that?
Now,
the Dragon spacecraft is set to arrive at the International Space Station in just a few days, where our astronauts will be conducting that groundbreaking research that it is carrying up.
And right now, we did have confirmation of a good orbit from that second stage with the Dragon. Right now, the next phase of the mission is going to be Dragon separation from the top of the second stage. We'll be able to see, you can actually see on your right-hand side of your screen, that's a view inside the trunk, the unpressurized cargo section of the Dragon. And I believe you can actually see some of the science experiments that are in the trunk right there.
It's an exciting capability for the Dragon trunk to be able to store unpressurized cargo and take that up to the International Space Station. It's a very unique capability.
And there it is. You can see the successful separation of that Dragon spacecraft from the top of the second stage. The trunk is open to the bottom. It's an unpressurized spacecraft, and I believe those are the two science experiments we're currently going to be mounted on the outside of the International Space Station. But yeah, so the next Dragon still has a long way to go. The next phase of its mission is going to be extending the solar arrays. So you can actually see on your screen there's two kind of bumps on the side of that trunk. Those are the folded up solar arrays, and in I believe at 12 minutes and 30 seconds those solar arrays are going to extend and unfurl so that the Dragon can start harvesting solar power and make its way the rest of the way to the International Space Station.
Now, as you mentioned earlier, we've got some cargo inside the trunk of that spacecraft, which you could see as it was pulling away. We have two different experiments. The first one is the JEDI spacecraft, and that's JEDI with a G. It stands for the Global Ecosystem Dynamics Investigation. The JEDI spacecraft will actually measure and create 3D maps of Earth's tropical and temperate forests. These measurements will help scientists determine how much carbon is stored in the world's forests. Also inside Dragon's trunk is the Robotic Refueling Mission 3, known as RRM-3. The investigation will demonstrate technologies to store and transfer liquid methane, a type of cryogenic liquid, in space for the first time. That will help NASA develop capabilities to service and refuel spacecraft in orbit set for long-duration space flights.
And obviously we here at SpaceX have an interest in long-term duration space flights for our eventual plans to send humans to Mars. So all of this research helps us, and we're excited to help NASA bringing that research up to the International Space Station. Like I was saying earlier, we are currently waiting for the Dragon solar array deploy coming up in about 30 seconds, 30 or 45 seconds. Those solar panels are covered by shrouds on the side, carbon fiber shrouds. And so we might be able to get some video, hopefully, of those shrouds popping off and those solar arrays extending. Shortly after the solar array deploy, we won't see this, but the next step for Dragon is to open its GNC bay door. That stands for Guidance, Navigation, and Control Door. It's sort of like Dragon opening its eyes, exposing its sensors to space so it can find and lock onto the station and make its way the rest of the way towards the ISS's orbit. And as you can see right there, that is a confirmation of Dragon's solar panels deploying from the side of that trunk. This is excellent news. It means that Dragon is now able to power itself all the way the rest of the way to the space station.
Dragon is now on its way to the space station. When Dragon arrives in just a couple of days, the spacecraft and the space station will establish a direct communications link, and then Dragon will slowly approach, pausing at several checkpoints to ensure that everything is still going as expected. Eventually, as Dragon approaches closer and closer, the European Space Agency astronaut Alexander Gerst will reach out and capture the Dragon. Next, ground commands will be sent to Mission Control, or from Mission Control in Houston, for the space station's robotic arm to reach out, rotate, and install it on the bottom of the space station's Harmony module.
Well, 13 and a half minutes since liftoff when that entire rocket was at Cape Canaveral. We had some great views. The weather cooperated today. The ground winds weren't too high. We were able to launch right out the opening of the window. You saw ascent, great stage separation. We did get some great views of the first stage and the grid fins coming back, but as you heard from some of the background noise and comments, the first stage did land in the water. Now the good news is we've got a lot of telemetry from it, so we'll be able to understand what happened and work to improve reliability as we always do here at SpaceX. Second stage went into great orbit. It was really precise. Dragon you saw separate, and now the solar rays coming out. All told, another great day for SpaceX and NASA.
Dragon's arrival, capture, and installation to the International Space Station will be streamed live on Saturday, December 8th on NASA TV and on spacex.com/webcast. Dragon will spend about 5 weeks attached to the space station before returning to Earth with cargo and research.
Please follow NASA and SpaceX on our social media pages for ongoing updates. I personally will be covering that early morning grapple and capture, so please tune in for that on Saturday morning. And please, thank you to NASA, the range, the FAA, and you, the viewer, for tuning in. We greatly appreciate your support for these launches. Until next time.
All right, so we obviously got something to chat about here because I mean, first of all, let's do the the kind of the general recap to not panic everybody. The main primary mission of getting the Dragon spacecraft into orbit and on its way to the International Space Station looks to be a success. Great, fantastic, but obviously the big news here, I mean, it's still, it's unfortunate that that this is going to turn out to be the big news, but it is interesting, especially to me. But especially other launch companies don't even attempt to recover their boosters, but obviously SpaceX does, and they did intend to recover this booster today. But something clearly went wrong with that landing attempt. This is the first return to launch site landing that has been unsuccessful. I think ever, right? Has there with the first return to launch site landing? That was their first successful the actual first successful landing, right? So somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the first return to launch site landing that was unsuccessful. But you could definitely see, and we're gonna go back and take a look at this because this was interesting. Let's see if I can pull this up here. Let me switch it back over. Let's see, which screen do we want? All right, let's back up the clock here because clearly something was going wrong as it was coming in. I mean, everything looked fine at this point. Oh yeah, right there. That's where they cut it off. It was coming in here and it still looked okay, but it did seem to be drifting a lot more. And look at the thrusters are like fighting each other. They're pushing it back to the left now, and now it's trying to go right. Now it's going down. Like, look at it's wiggling a lot, and that's very unusual. Now it's starting to spin. This is really unusual. You don't see this, and then it got crazy. Then it lost control. It got out of control. This is very unusual right here. And then it just started spiraling out of control. You can see the grid, and then they cut away, and they didn't show it. That's a big... It's a big difference between SpaceX now versus SpaceX like way back in the day. They used to just show everything. Like, even if it was a failure of the booster landing, they would just show it, which I wish they would do, but I think they're under a lot of pressure now. A lot of people these days, like, the headline tomorrow from a lot of places that are not that familiar with SpaceX will be something like, SpaceX fails, launch attempt for International Space Station mission, which is completely untrue. They did not fail the launch attempt. The actual mission itself is just fine. It's just their landing attempt, which nobody else does, has apparently failed. And that was crazy. I was watching that go down, and I was like, wait a minute. This is, see, right away, right after the entry burn here, you see, so now it's pushing to the right. Still pushing to the right with that thrust. Now let's push it back to the left. It just seems right away. It seems like these thrusters are working overtime. Usually you just see these thrusters kind of just burst and just make minor corrections at this point, and the grid fins are really kicking in to make kind of the major movements. But yeah, look at it. It is just getting way out of control. And then you see the grid fins. Grid fins are all cranked all the way over to the side. This is like, I'm going to equate this to like grid fin gimbal lock here, basically, because they were just unrecoverable. And apparently it made a water landing. And then you could hear everybody cheer and clap in the background. That presumably they were just kind of laughing at it, that it just landed in the water. But I hope we should get some either video or photos of it, especially because it was a return to launch site landing. There's a lot of spaceflight photographers that attend these launches, and I'm sure somebody has got to have a photo of that. They're probably all scrambling trying to get it up and running, or up on Twitter. I was trying to see, while I was listening to them close out the broadcast, I was trying to see if I could find one and retweet it, but I haven't seen anything. Oh yeah, there we go. I finally see... I see one set of photos. It's not super crystal clear, but it appears that I'll pull this up here on the screen, see if I can find it. It appears that the landing legs actually deployed, and came out. Oh, actually, it's from Scott Manley here. So let's let's pull up the Twitter machine. Let's see. We can switch you over to this. Let me switch you over to. We'll switch you over to this screen, over to Scott Manley's feed here. So these are some pictures. Actually, these look like Kerbal Space Academy's pictures with the logo there. But Scott Manley tweeted these out here. You can see the booster coming in, and he said, the comment says, looks like a fin got stuck. So like maybe a grid fin they're talking about. But you can see it's making the landing burn. And the landing legs are coming out, and it basically it attempts the landing, but just didn't make it to land. Landed in water there. So I was looking to see if there's any more. Let's see. Let's all look together. See if there's any more. Here's John Krause. He's got his launch. There's the attempted landing out in the water. Looks like everybody just got that view from behind the trees there, or behind the like trees or bushes, whatever those are, right on the coast there. But yeah, so far haven't seen any video come through. But there's at least a quick look at what happened. Let's see. Oh, Elon says, here we go. Here's an update from Elon already. That was quick. Grid fin hydraulic pump stalled, so Falcon landed just out to sea. Appears to be undamaged and is transmitting data. Recovery ship has been dispatched. So it looks like the problem, he said, was a grid fin hydraulic pump stalled. But the booster is undamaged and they're going to try to recover it still. So I guess that's a plus. So we didn't quite get a return to launch site landing, but we got a water landing, just no ship there to actually catch it. And then I saw something else. Elon, somebody asked him, he said, will we ever get to see video of this? And Elon said, yes, the cutaway was a mistake. We will show all footage, good or bad. And that's kind of the SpaceX of the old that I remember. You know, they would show the footage, good or bad. They would just show it. But there's Elon. Elon said the cutaway was a mistake, which I don't know. I wish they would have shown that live. But hopefully that means he's going to put out some video of that actually, of what happened there. I'd love to see the onboard video of that. I'd love to see the third person view of that as well. It's yeah, I was pretty disappointed that they cut away from that. But he says it was a mistake, so I'll take him at his word. And that's the big thing of interest here today. Let's see. What are you guys all saying about it? Let's see. It was great to hear them laugh. Does anyone have the capability to make a musical montage of Tori's best facial reactions and fist bumps? My God, that sounds terrible. Probably be funny, but let's watch it again. Yeah, we watched it again. I totally want to find out what the abort procedure is. If it can't do a return to launch site, maybe they cheered because it worked. Yeah, somebody else on Twitter also said that. And I don't know what evidence they have to back that up, but they did say, they said that the booster lost control and it aborted the return to launch site landing. Didn't look like so much of an abort to me. It looked more like it just got out of skew and went, well, I'll just land in the water instead. But there might be some sort of official abort. There's got to be some sort of abort in place, especially if it's coming back to population there, returning back on land. There's got to be some sort of abort. So maybe potentially the booster figured out, detected that it was not able to control itself and went, we're gonna dive this to the water and do our best to have a soft splashdown. I don't know if that's the case, but obviously something happened there. One can see the rocket twisting in the last second. Yeah, those last couple of seconds where it started twisting here. We can back it up. I mean, these gyrations, like right here, right after the entry burn, it was already getting a lot of like lateral movement that was unusual. Like this back and forth here when I was looking at that, you know, this lateral movement is usually very unusual. It's usually pretty stable at this point. But obviously, if one of the grid fins was not working, it was struggling. And then this is very unusual right here. Just spinning completely out of control. That's not normal. Let's see. Yeah, and I was talking about some of the news articles. Yeah, I mean, some of them, somebody commented, you know, the news headline will be like, Elon Musk loses a rocket again. It's like, well, the mission was successful. This is secondary, which obviously is troubling. They'll have to figure out what happened, but the main payload itself, the Dragon is fine. The actual mission, the customer gets exactly what they needed to get. So I don't see it as a huge issue. It's just disappointing for them to lose that booster. So let's see. Didn't have ULA breathing down their necks back in the day. Yeah, Boeing and Lockheed Martin are big military contractors, have greased a lot of palms in Washington. Yeah, so I think that's in relation to the newer SpaceX. It seems like when they have a failure like this, they're a little more sensitive to some of the publicity that they get. And they make sure to say over and over again, like they're like, yeah, the booster landed in the water, but don't forget, the Dragon is on its way to the space station. It was very successful. It was a good flight today. Everything was a big success, and the booster landed in the water. But it was a big success, and it was on the way to the space station. You know, they kind of just breeze right past it. That's very different from the SpaceX of old. You know, they probably would have talked about that more, but I'm sure they're a lot more sensitive to the pressure from Boeing they're putting on from the commercial crew, kind of the commercial crew race, some pressure from NASA to make sure things are perfect, pressure from news and public opinion and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure they're very, very sensitive to a lot of that stuff. Let's see. Nonetheless, still amazing, says Michael. I totally agree. Even if they didn't land the first stage, still pretty awesome. Let's see. Tori for sure is a next lesson. I don't know what that means. He'll reach my comment somewhere in this century. Yeah. What was your comment? I missed. Oh wait. Did I? Alex Siggyful says, I just got here. Did I miss Tori doing anything weird? That's the, oh, there it is. Gregorius said, he said, that must be the comment that he said that he's got amateur video of the landing here. Oh, this.
Oh my gosh, that thing is moving.
There it is. Oh, all right. Here we go. We'll watch this. This looks to be from. This is from Kerbal Space Academy on Twitch. So let's take a quick look at this, because here we're gonna swing this over here. We'll throw this up on the screen. He was there live, which he frequently is.
God, where'd it go?
Let's take a look.
Oh my gosh, that thing is moving.
There it is.
That was a wobble.
What was that? Yeah.
Look at that.
Wobbled big time. Here we go.
Look at it. Oh man, yeah, that's not normal. Look at it spin.
It's rolling.
Oh my goodness. What?
That is not normal.
Oh wow.
It's rolling a lot, y'all. Look at that.
All right.
Come on, baby.
Okay, come on, baby. It's still rolling?
It is still rolling, yeah.
Come on, baby. You can do it.
It looks like the roll's settling down, but it's not
very
straight.
Sideways.
Very windy today.
There go the legs.
Come on.
Oh.
Come on.
Stick it.
Oh.
It's pretty sideways. Nope. Uh-oh, no.
Oh no. Wow.
Oh no.
Yikes.
Wow.
All right, so there's there's amateur video from Kerbal Space Academy on Twitch. Here, I'll make sure I give him credit here. We got it. Here's his. Oh, here, make it nice and big so everybody can see his Twitch channel there. Make sure you check it out. He takes fantastic live videos of I don't know who this YouTube channel is, so ignore that. But here's this is Kerbal Space Academy on Twitch. They do fantastic live footage from Cape Canaveral, and I think he's done it from Vandenberg Air Force Base as well. So definitely check out that channel, because that's fantastic amateur footage from right there. And I shouldn't even say amateur, he's kind of a professional. But there's some footage of the actual, that crazy failed landing there. So hopefully, I'm hoping he's not too offended that we just showed that. But there, that's a look from the ground of what happened, which is crazy. That was pretty insane. Let's see. All right, I lost all my comments since I started when I went to go show that. But thanks to Gregorius for finding that. Oh wow, look at the comments are flying in here now. Now that everybody's. Oh, these are all. I read all these comments already, but it's just showing me the comments over again. Did anyone catch the actual landing? Yep, there we go. That was the actual landing right there from Kerbal Space Academy's Twitch channel. It will be in the news. I'm sure this will be in the news. Amazing that it retained as much control as it did. That is true. Let's see. To be fair, mostly recovered. Impressive, given how out of control it seemed. Yeah, it is still pretty impressive. And it sounds like they're still going to be able to recover it. Looks soft enough to be mostly undamaged. Yeah, so it sounds like they will be able to recover it, and it won't be too damaged, hopefully. But yeah, it definitely got out of control there for a bit. But hopefully they'll be able to reuse it with minimal refurbishing. To try to keep some of those costs down a little bit, and hopefully it's a quick fix and they can figure out what happened here. But yeah, that obviously was not right there. You can see that grid fin on the right is just hard over. I'm not sure if that's the one, because the perspective there is really hard to see, and I'm so disappointed that they cut away. That really annoys me. But you can see the grid fin on the right really just banks hard over, but it seems to be already having an issue at this point, and that's before the grid fin goes hard over. So I think the grid fin right there, so the grid fin twists around, and I feel like that was more in response to what was happening. It was just trying to gain control, and obviously we can't see the grid fins on the other, or grid fin on the other side, but yeah, obviously something with the grid fins, not so good today. But again, got to remember the launch itself successful. The Dragon capsule on its way to the International Space Station. So the primary mission is just fine. NASA's requirements have been met. NASA doesn't. I'm sure they care, but they don't really care if the booster lands. Like, they just want to make sure that their Dragon capsule makes it to the space station, and at what the price is. I mean, when you start losing boosters like this, that's when it makes it harder to keep bringing that cost down, because you got to account for that in your pricing. But just a minor issue for today. I mean, it's a big issue for SpaceX, but in general, minor issue, shouldn't hold anything up. There are 2 more missions scheduled for this year. One of them is right at the end of the year. That's the last Iridium one, so that may get pushed into 2019, but we'll see. There is one coming up on December 18th. That'll be the next SpaceX launch. So stick around for that. Subscribe to the channel. Do all that kind of stuff, and we'll definitely check out the next launch that comes up on the 18th. And let's see. Yeah, space is hard, says Eddie JLV on Periscope. Indeed, it is hard. Yeah, I'm just going back through some of the comments on Periscope that I missed. Let's see. Yeah, well, it's not the end of the world here, folks, but makes for a little bit of excitement here for this launch. It's not just when you think everything's starting to get routine, a wrench gets thrown into it. And obviously you want to try to keep those out of it, but not the case today. Chusakan, who would have thought, says, who would have thought 20 years ago we'd be talking about a rocket launch only being partially successful due to the booster not landing? That's a good way to put that, because yeah, I mean, 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago for that matter, they would have launched the Dragon capsule up, and the booster would have intentionally crashed into the water, and everybody would have just went, that's what happens. But now, because they're trying to land it, and if it doesn't successfully land, that becomes the big news story. So yeah, it's such a different environment now for SpaceX, and they really set the bar so much higher. Let's see, just the wobble just before the spin. The CRS is having problem with course correction. Yeah, it was, that booster started, it had so much lateral movement, horizontal movement there, that that was unusual, and then all of a sudden it got that roll and started spinning like crazy. That was nuts. So, all right, so last thing we're gonna do, because I got another hard cutoff time here. I gotta end this here quickly and get on the road. I'm going to do just a couple of giveaways here today. So I'm going to I decided on 2 giveaways that we'll give out here for today. And then I got to hit the road here and head out, but we'll see on the next December launch here. So there'll be 2 NASA test items, just like previously. We've got a NASA test sticker here and a NASA test pin. So the pins we introduced yesterday, I didn't think anybody liked the pins. I've been holding on to these for a while, but apparently everybody likes the pins. So we're going to give out a sticker and a pin here today. We'll give away 2 prizes, and then come the next launch, hopefully I won't have as much time pressure to get moving, so we can do some more giveaways as well. But make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video, follow the channel on Periscope, throw some hearts over on Periscope. But if you want to win today's giveaway, you got to be on the YouTube channel. So you got to go to youtube.com/OLHZN and just throw in a comment. And I'm going to start tracking comments right now. So any comments you make starting now will make you eligible for the giveaways here. So all you got to do, it's nothing big you have to comment. You just have to say hello, say hi, say OMG, the booster crashed, whatever you want to say. Just got to say something, and that will make you eligible to get into the giveaways here. So we're going to do two quick giveaways, and then we'll be on our way here for today. But yeah, head over to the YouTube channel, and we're going to give 2 giveaways here. See a couple people still sticking around. A test sticker, a test pin, and then we'll call it a day and wrap it up. I know there's a little bit of a delay between when I say it and when you actually hear it, so I'm trying to delay enough so that I don't start giving things away before you've even heard my that I'm giving things away. But anyways, there are some conditions in the YouTube description. It tells you where the eligible locations are. Basically, you got to be in the U.S., Canada, the UK, or the European Union, and then you'll be eligible. The exceptions are Quebec. Can't win if you're in Quebec. And I think it's France, and somewhere else is excluded in Europe. But it's in the YouTube description. I really should memorize those so that I can actually say those out loud. But there's a couple exceptions because there's laws to give away free stuff. You wouldn't think that they would make it so difficult, but they do. I see a couple of tweets coming in here from Elon. So while you're getting your comments in, I'm still tracking comments. So get your comments in on the YouTube channel. Still tracking them. But while we're waiting, I am going to I wanted to take a look at some of these comments here from Elon. So get your comments in on the YouTube channel, and that'll get you eligible for the giveaway. But let's see. Somebody asked Elon if it can be reused. Elon said we may be able to reuse it for an internal SpaceX mission. So it sounds like they won't use it for a customer flight. This is the booster that did the water landing today. Sounds like they won't do it for a customer flight, but they may reuse it for one of their own internal SpaceX missions. That could be something like Starlink. Could be maybe the in-flight abort test for the Crew Dragon. So there's a whole bunch of things that they could potentially use that for. But it sounds like they're going to give it a shot to try to reuse it, just not for paying customer. Let's see. There was another comment I saw from him replying to Scott Manley, who asked, "Is there one pump for all fins?" Or do they have backups? And Elon said that the pump is single string. Some landing systems are not redundant, as landing is considered ground safety critical, but not mission critical. Given this event, we will likely add a backup pump and lines. So it sounded like, so the hydraulic pump sounds like it failed on the grid fins, and there is no redundancy on those hydraulic pumps. So because it's not mission critical, it's obviously safety critical to make sure that the booster doesn't crash into population, but because it's not mission critical, there's no redundancy on those pumps. But it sounds like they're going to consider adding redundancy since they had a hydraulic pump failure today. So that was also from Elon Musk on his Twitter. Let's see, did I miss anything else? Nope, I don't think hasn't been anything else coming through. The spin seemed to stabilize as it got closer to the ground, but it was still rolling quite a bit. And the booster still did a really good job of controlling it, just, even with the grid fin being basically completely out of control. Let's see, what else did we miss here? Anything else of note? I don't think so. So all right, let's do these two giveaways here, and then we can wrap it up, because I gotta head out here. I got like 2 minutes, and then I gotta end it and wrap it up. So all right, here we go. First giveaway. Oh, we got a whole bunch of people that are eligible for the giveaway here. So all right, first one is going to be well, actually we usually do the more sought after prize first. So that's the NASA TESS pin. Right there, it's like a regular pin that you can pin onto something, right? That's what you do with pins. But anyways, NASA TESS pin from the NASA TESS mission back in April of this year that I attended in person. So we're going to give this away, and yeah, all right. So we got a bunch of eligible people here, and as long as they're in the eligibility areas. All right, 1, 2, 3, roll it. Nightbot, tell us who the winner is. The winner of the pin is D Suits. D Suits has won the pin. So there you go. There you go, D. You got to, in order to get your pin, you got to send me a direct message on Twitter or Facebook, or go to the website, overlookhorizon.com. Contact us and send me a direct message. Let me know where you want me to ship it to. As long as you're in our eligibility areas, then I can ship it to you. But you just have to send me a direct message on one of our social media channels so that I know where to send it. So do that, and they will go out. These will go out next week. I usually try to get them out the same day based on all the work that's happening here around me. I can't get them out until next week. That'll be the same for the prizes for the people that won 2 days ago. They're going to go out next week, but they will definitely go out. I had a prize come back to me a couple weeks ago. It got returned, but we resent it. But anyways, yeah, this will go out next week there. So congratulations to D Suits. Send me that direct message. Let me know where you want me to send it. All right, and one more. Michael Sharp wants to know where to buy a pin. Unfortunately, we don't sell the pins. These are strictly giveaway only. So I don't know if they do sell them somewhere, but they might. But our pin collection that we have is strictly for giveaways only. Sorry. Okay. Okay, anyway, so the NASA test sticker here, we'll give one of these away, and then we're going to call it a day. Let's get our Nightbot back up here, and we'll do another giveaway here. Let me reset the Nightbot. All right, Nightbot is ready to go. Okay, 1, 2, 3, roll it. There it is. A winner of the NASA test sticker is Leah, or Leah. I think she sent me how to pronounce it, but I didn't get a chance to look at it yet. But anyways, so there you go. There's the NASA test sticker winner. Just gotta, again, send me a direct message on where you want me to send it to on Twitter, Facebook, or on our overlookhorizon.com/contact us. Just gotta let me know. Gotta let me know where to send it, and it will be heading out next week to you. Usually takes a couple days to get there. So yeah, send me those messages and we'll get the prizes out. And then make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and to our Periscope and Twitter and all that kind of stuff, because we got another launch coming up on December 18th, and we'll do this all over again. But I'm gonna kind of end this abruptly, which I apologize for, but I mentioned kind of vaguely that we got a lot of work going on here. I'm not going to get any more specific than that, but yeah, I have a hard cutoff here that I gotta end this and get moving, and hopefully we'll play the right video this time. I don't know why it played my exit video at the beginning of this. Well, I don't know. We'll have to check this out. So. Anyway, when will be the next broadcast? Yeah, I believe it's December 18th is what we're scheduled for. Is when the next SpaceX launch is scheduled for. So that will be the next broadcast. There is a launch this Friday for the National Reconnaissance Office. It's a ULA Delta IV Heavy mission, which is always a fun one to see the Delta IV Heavy launch. I will not be able to broadcast that one, unfortunately, but there is a flight this Friday, so definitely check it out. I won't be able to broadcast that one, but December 18th is the next SpaceX launch that I will be broadcasting, and hopefully I will see you all there. So prize winners, send me where you want that to go, and I'm going to wrap this up here for today and head out of here. So I thank everybody for joining us here again today. My name's Tori. This is Overlook Horizon, and I will see you guys all next time on December 18th. All right, thanks, guys. See ya.